There's a country where the average household has about $400,000 in net wealth, where people retire with actual pension money, where you can leave your bike unlocked and nobody steals it because, well, they already have one. That country is the Netherlands, and Americans think they're cheap bastards. The Dutch split dinner bills down to the cent. They bring sandwiches to work in Tupperware. They'll bike 10 miles in the rain rather than pay for a taxi. There's literally an app called Tikkie that exists solely so Dutch people can request payment for their share of a pizza. The rest of the world watches this behavior and thinks, what miserable penny pinchers. Here's what nobody asks. If they're so cheap, why are they so rich? Because here's the thing, the Dutch aren't cheap. They've just figured out something most Americans spend their entire lives missing. They've built a cultural immune system against the financial parasites that drain everyone else dry. And I'm going to walk you through exactly how that system works, why it compounds over decades, and which parts you can copy without moving to Amsterdam. By the way, I built a free early retirement calculator because most online ones are mathematically wrong. It uses BlackRock and Vanguard logic to expose the weak points in your plan, and I only ask for your email to send the report so I don't store any of your financial data. Link in the description. The central thing you need to understand is this. The Dutch don't think about money as points in a game. They think about it as an immune system. And just like your body has defenses against viruses, their culture has defenses against the little financial bleeds that drain most people. Let me tell you about a guy named Peter. Not someone I know personally, just a composite of about 15 Dutch people I've observed. Peter makes about 60,000 euros a year. That's around $65,000. Not rich, solid middle class. He's 42. He's got a wife, 2 kids, a small house in Utrecht. Every morning, Peter makes 2 sandwiches, puts them in a container, rides his bike 20 minutes to work, eats the sandwiches at his desk with coffee from the office machine, rides home. This has been his routine for 17 years. Americans see this and think, God, what a sad existence. Imagine being so broke you can't afford lunch. But here's what they miss. Peter's not broke. Peter has 280,000 euros in investments. He'll retire at 63 with a full state pension plus his own savings. He takes a 3-week vacation to France every summer. He's not deprived. He just automated his defenses. Because here's the first habit, and it's going to sound boring, but watch what happens when you compound it. Pack your own lunch. Not sometimes, every day. The average American spends $15 on lunch. 5 days a week, that's $75. Multiply by 50 weeks, that's $3,750 a year. Peter spends maybe 3 euros on sandwich materials. That's about $3.20. Times 250 workdays, that's $800 a year. The difference? $2,950 annually. Over 20 years, $59,000. And that's before you invest it. Now you might be thinking, sure, but I need to network over lunch. I need to build relationships. Look, I ran a business for over a decade. The deals I closed over lunch, I can count them on one hand. Most lunch meetings are just expensive ways to avoid doing actual work. The Dutch figured this out. They eat fast, they save the money, and they use those savings to buy time later. But here's where it gets interesting. That sandwich habit isn't isolated. It's part of a system. The second habit is what Americans call going Dutch, which is hilarious because Americans named it after the Dutch, and the Dutch just call it being normal. You split the bill, always. No exceptions. No, I'll get this one, you get the next. No keeping a mental ledger of who paid last time. There's this app in the Netherlands, Tikkie. Its entire purpose is to request money from friends. You go out for drinks, one person pays, everyone gets a Tikkie request for their exact share. 8 euros and 40 cents for your 2 beers and your share of the fries. Americans find this mortifying. They think it signals poverty or distrust. But watch what it actually does. It completely eliminates the social pressure to overspend. When you know you're paying for exactly what you order what you actually want. Not what signals status, not what keeps up with the big spender at the table, just what you want. I've seen this dynamic destroy people financially. Guy makes $90,000 a year, goes out with his buddy who makes $200,000, feels obligated to split a $400 dinner 50-50 when he ordered a $30 entree. does this twice a month. That's over $4,000 a year evaporating because he's too embarrassed to ask for separate checks. The Dutch don't have this problem. They engineered it out of their culture. And here's the kicker. Because everyone does it, there's no social penalty. You're not the cheap one. You're just Dutch. Third habit, they don't use credit cards. This one makes Americans lose their minds. What about points? What about building credit? What about the float? The Netherlands doesn't have a credit score system like America. They don't need to borrow money to prove they're good at borrowing money, which when you say it out loud sounds completely insane. The Dutch use debit cards. Money comes out of their actual account. If they don't have it, they don't spend it. I know what you're thinking, but I pay off my card every month. I never carry a balance. I'm gaming the system for points. Sure, some people are. Studies show that's about 30% of credit card users. The other 70% carry balances and pay interest that averages 16% annually. Credit card companies aren't stupid. They're not offering you free money. The points game works because they make it back from everyone else. And even if you're in that disciplined 30%, research shows people spend 12 to 18% more when using credit versus debit because it doesn't feel real. The Dutch removed the option. They built a wall around that particular vulnerability. No credit cards means no possibility of credit card debt. And credit card debt is like stage 4 financial cancer in America. Average household carrying a balance, $8,000 at 18% interest. That's $1,440 a year, just burning up every year, forever, until you stop. By the way, hit subscribe if you like the content. Otherwise, YouTube's algorithm may never show you my videos again. Fourth habit, and this is where the system thinking gets really clear. They shop at discount supermarkets. Aldi, Lidl, the cheap ones. Not for everything, but for staples. The stuff that's commodity anyway. There's no performance difference between Aldi milk and fancy supermarket milk. It's milk. Same with rice, pasta, canned tomatoes, olive oil. But the fancy supermarket charges 30 to 40% more because of the store ambiance and the lighting and whatever story they're telling. Americans, we're suckers for the story. We'll pay $8 for organic artisanal orange juice because the label has a farmer on it and mentions sustainability. The Dutch buy the €3 orange juice. It's the same orange. Here's a real example from someone I know who moved to Amsterdam for work. She's American, was spending about $900 a month on groceries, shopping at the Albert Heijn, which is like the Whole Foods of the Netherlands. Her Dutch coworkers looked at her receipts and were horrified. They sat her down, explained that you get your basics at Aldi, your vegetables at the street market, and you only go to Albert Heijn for specific things that matter to you. She switched. Same diet, same food quality, $460 a month. She saved $440 monthly, $5,280 a year. She's been doing this for 6 years now. That's $31,680. That's a down payment on a rental property. But nobody thinks about it this way. They think it's just groceries, it's just lunch, it's just coffee, and that's exactly how you stay broke. Which brings me to habit 5. The Dutch save aggressively. Not for anything specific, just save. Build a buffer. The Dutch National Bank guarantees deposits up to 100,000 euros. The culture treats savings like an operating system. You have savings, period. That's the default state. In America, 69% of people have less than $1,000 in savings. In the Netherlands, the average savings account has over 25,000 euros. And yes, I know, inflation, you should invest, savings accounts are trash. I'm not defending the vehicle. I'm explaining the psychology. When you have savings, you don't need credit cards. When you don't need credit cards, you can't get wrecked by interest. When you can't get wrecked by interest, you have more money to save. It's a reinforcing loop. The Dutch built the loop into their cultural operating system. Americans built the opposite loop. You have no savings, so you use credit, so you pay interest, so you have no savings. Now here's where this gets really interesting. The 6th habit. They don't show off. There's a Dutch saying that translates to, just act normal. That's crazy enough already. The culture actively punishes displays of wealth. You drive a Porsche in Amsterdam, people don't admire you. They think you're an insecure idiot. You wear a Rolex, same thing. The social reward system is inverted from America. You get status from being modest, normal, grounded. Let me tell you about a guy I read about in a financial case study. Successful tech entrepreneur in Rotterdam. Sold his company for 8 million euros. Kept living in his same small apartment, rode his same bike, wore the same clothes. His friends didn't know he was rich for 3 years. When they found out, they thought it was weird that he'd been hiding it. He wasn't hiding it. He just didn't see the point in changing. Compare that to America. Entrepreneur sells his company for $8 million. First thing he does, buys a Ferrari, rents a penthouse, gets a Rolex, posts it all on Instagram. Because in America, the money isn't real until you signal it. The Dutch inverted this. The money isn't real until you keep it. And this has massive financial implications. Research from The Millionaire Next Door shows that actual millionaires, the ones with real wealth, don't look like millionaires. They drive Toyotas. They live in middle-class neighborhoods. They don't show off. Because showing off is expensive. Every dollar you spend on signaling is a dollar that's not compounding. Habit 7. They cycle everywhere. And I don't mean for exercise. I mean for transportation. The Netherlands has more bikes than people. 23 million bikes for 18 million people. Americans see this as a quaint European thing. What they miss is the financial math. The average American car costs $750 per month when you include the payment, insurance, gas, maintenance, depreciation. That's $9,000 a year. The Dutch bike costs maybe 200 euros annually for maintenance. That's about $215. The difference? $8,785 per year. Over a working lifetime of 40 years, $351,400. Invested at 7% annual returns, that's over $2 million. The Dutch aren't biking because they love the environment, though that's a nice side effect. They bike because cars are financial black holes. Now, obviously, you can't bike everywhere in America. Infrastructure is different. But the principle holds. Every automatic recurring cost is a leak in your wealth immune system. The Dutch identify leaks and patch them. Americans just let them run. Habit 8. Utilities. The Dutch obsess over utility costs. They heat only the rooms they use. They take shorter showers. They run appliances during off-peak hours. They install solar panels. This sounds miserable to Americans. But watch the numbers. Average American household spends about $250 monthly on utilities, $3,000 annually. Dutch households average about 130 euros monthly. That's about $140. Difference of $110 per month, $1,320 per year. Again, it's not huge in isolation. But these habits don't exist in isolation. They stack. You save on lunch, you save on bill splitting, you save on groceries, you save on cars, you save on utilities. Now you're saving $15,000 to $20,000 annually. Over 20 years, invested at 7%, that's $800,000. This is how the Dutch built wealth. Not through genius stock picks, not through crypto, through systematic defense against financial parasites. Habit 9, discount passes. The Dutch have figured out that most cities offer discount cards that nobody uses. Museum passes that cost 75 euros and give unlimited access to every museum in the country. A single visit to 3 major museums costs 66 euros. The pass pays for itself instantly. Libraries. The Dutch use libraries aggressively, not just for books, for internet access, for magazines, for audiobooks, for music, for DVDs, for video games. Americans pay for Spotify, Netflix, Audible, book purchases, internet at coffee shops. The Dutch pay for a library card and get most of it free. This is arbitrage. Finding the gap between what something costs retail versus what it costs through an alternative system. The Dutch are arbitrage hunters. Americans are retail payers. Habit 10, and this one's gonna make you uncomfortable. They pack lunches for their kids, for school trips, for theme parks, for day trips. American parents feel guilty about this. Their kid's the only one without the theme park hot dog. But theme park hot dogs cost $14. A sandwich from home costs $1.50. You take your family of 4 to a theme park twice a year, pack lunch instead of buying it there. You save about $250 annually. Not massive, but it's $250 more than the family that cares about optics. The Dutch optimized for wealth over optics. Americans optimized for optics over wealth. And then Americans wonder why they're broke. Habit 11. They don't waste. Recycling is mandatory. Food waste is social taboo. There's an app called Too Good To Go where restaurants sell surplus food at discount prices. There are clothing exchanges. There's Marktplaats, which is like Craigslist, but functional. There are thrift stores where middle-class people actually shop. The American consumption model is buy, use briefly, discard, buy again. The Dutch model is buy, use completely, repair, reuse, sell, then maybe buy again. This isn't about being eco-friendly, though again, nice side effect. This is about extracting maximum value from every dollar spent. When you buy something for $100 and use it until it's completely dead, you got $100 of value. When you buy something for $100, use it for 6 months, throw it away, and buy another one, you got maybe $30 of value. You just destroyed $70. The Dutch engineered waste out of their system. Americans subsidized it. 12th habit, and this is the one that ties everything together. Coffee at work. The Dutch don't buy coffee. They drink the office coffee. Yes, it's terrible. Yes, Starbucks tastes better. But Starbucks costs $6. Office coffee costs $0. 5 days a week, 50 weeks a year, that's $1,500 annually. You're thinking, come on, $1,500 isn't going to make me rich. You're right. $1,500 won't. But $1,500 from coffee, plus $3,000 from lunch, plus $1,300 from utilities, plus $8,000 from not having a car, plus $5,000 from groceries, plus $1,000 from not wasting food, plus $1,000 from libraries and discount passes equals $20,800 annually. That's the system. That's how it works. The Dutch didn't get one habit right. They built a system where every habit reinforces every other habit. It's a financial immune system, and it runs automatically. Let me show you what this looks like in practice. Real numbers. 2 guys, both 35 years old, both make $75,000 annually. Guy A is American, buys lunch every day, drives a financed car, uses credit cards, carries a small balance, shops at Whole Foods, spends normally, saves about 5% of his income. That's $3,750 per year. Guy B copies Dutch habits, packs lunch, bikes, or uses public transit, uses debit only, shops at discount stores, saves 28% of his income. That's $21,000 per year. At age 55, Guy A has about $150,000 saved. Guy B has over $1.2 million. Same income, different system. The gap is $1,050,000. That's not rounding error. That's a different life. Now you're asking yourself, is this realistic for America? Can you actually copy this? Some of it, yes. Some of it, no. You probably can't bike to work if you live in Houston, but you can pack lunch. You can split bills. You can shop at Aldi. You can stop using credit. You can stop showing off. You can use the library. You cannot waste food. The principle is this. Identify your financial parasites. The recurring costs that drain wealth without building it. Engineer them out of your life. Build a system, not a budget. Budgets require willpower. Systems run automatically. Here's what you do. 3 things. First, audit your subscriptions and recurring costs. Everything. Gym you don't use, streaming services you forget about, car payment on a vehicle that's bleeding value. Cut 50% of them. Immediately. This isn't deprivation. This is removing parasites. Second, automate 1 Dutch habit this month. Pack lunch Monday through Friday for 4 weeks, just 1 month. Track what you save. You'll probably save $200 to $300. Now make it permanent and stack the next habit. Third, invert your status signals. Stop buying things to impress people. The Dutch figured out that nobody's impressed anyway. They're just thinking about themselves. Every dollar you spend on signaling is a dollar you're burning to impress people who don't care. Kill that reflex. Redirect the money to assets. The Dutch aren't smarter than Americans. They're not more disciplined. They just built better systems. And systems beat willpower every time. Lazy investing built more fortune than crypto memes. The Dutch proved it. They engineered a culture where building wealth is the default path and staying broke requires active effort. America engineered the opposite. You can choose which system to run. Most people won't do this. They'll watch this video, nod along, and change nothing. Because changing systems is uncomfortable. It requires admitting your current system is broken. It requires looking cheap to people whose opinions don't matter. It requires short-term discomfort for long-term wealth. The Dutch made that trade. They look cheap. They're actually rich. Americans look rich. They're actually broke. Pick one.